flow of energy. As we start moving, as we discussed on chapter number 2, many forces start to engage. Apart from understanding how I have to deal with them in relationship to my balance and to the balance of movement, I also need to understand how I can apply these energies in order to create better information between man and woman. If this energy that I create through the movement is directed correctly, it can be truly positive and in command for the man. So if I direct energy to Lorraine's center of the body, center as in if we do cut Lorraine vertically, yeah, so any energy that goes to the center of her body will create a pressure that Lorraine cannot absorb. Any energy that I apply to a side of the body can be received and absorbed. Now, the key joint that I have to be truly aware of is the hip joint. The hip joint is the joint where I can apply a lot of pressure and Lorraine can receive that pressure without any problem. So we can say that when we dance, we have a choice of 4 targets. The 4 targets are my left hip joint, my right hip joint, Lorraine left hip joint, and right hip joint. Of course, we cannot go to 4 targets all the time. So from the 4, we have to choose one in relationship to the step we're creating. So how do I, first of all, understand? What can help me to understand which is the target? Firstly, I need to understand who is going forward and who is going backwards. In certain steps, it is quite simple to understand. In others, it may be a little more complex to understand the person going forward and the person going backwards. Because we are not discussing about foot position, we're not discussing about body direction, we are discussing about energy flow. So this is the first point. First, we need to understand who is going forward and who is going backwards. Secondly, the same as a door, if I apply pressure on the left side of a door, the door will then open in this manner. If I apply pressure on the right side of the door will open in this manner. So if we have decided that Lorraine is the person moving backwards, and I want, for example, to create a feather step, and I want Lorraine to have a right rotation, because feather step is a natural figure, then I will need to apply and direct this energy flow to Lorraine's right hip. By applying the flow of energy to the hip, Lorraine will feel that the action will be a natural figure. She can now absorb that energy and actually pull that energy through. Now, pull and push can be very strong words and that we normally associate to bad dancing. But in relationship to energy flow, I am constantly either pushing or pulling. So if I do an impetus turn, as an example, or an open spin, this is where things get a little more complex, because as I end my open spin, it does look as if I am moving forward. Therefore, naturally, our instinct takes us to bring the energy forward and creates an out of balance position. So when I am not sure about what I should be doing, shall I be going forward, shall I be going backwards, I always think about what do I want Lorraine to do. Now, the worst information I can give to Lorraine in an open impetus is for Lorraine to move backwards at the end of it. Because in that case, we get the feeling of the lady becoming heavy and pulling us out of balance. So, if I want Lorraine to move forward, which is what I want. So I want the energy of Lorraine to continue forward so that her shape can become bigger and bigger and bigger, but the energy flow is coming forward to me. In order to achieve that, I need to move backwards. I need to pull that energy. In which hip? My right hip. Why? Because I'm turning to the right. So if I repeat the step, I'm now taking my energy and Lorraine's energy and pulling that into my right hip backwards all the way to the end of the promenade. Our shapes will change, our relationship to each other will change, the foot alignment will change. The energy flow will not change. Therefore, I will now pull Lorraine through into my right hip joint. Very often, this gives an illusion of the body weight being very far forward, and this can also create a confusion to the energy flow. So do not mix the end result of the movement with the actual mechanical way we achieve it. So my balance will still be vertically falling. I've now taken Lorraine's energy and my energy from this position. I have pulled it through, not in a square way, but at an angle, so that gravitational force, inertia, centripetal force, centrifugal force are now all channeled through the correct target. You will find, as you are practicing this and trying to discover who is going forward and who is going backwards, that many steps will trick you into finding the wrong target. So, one, always choose who is going forward, who is going backwards. Two, always very simply decide, is it a natural figure, is it a right figure, or is it a reverse figure, is it a left figure? If it's still not clear, then you can also think, where do I want to go next? So can I use this flow of energy as a preparation for the step that will follow? For example, if I do start again just from a simple open spin, and this is my first figure of my waltz, the beginning of the flow for me will go forward into Lorraine's left hip joint. Why? Because one, I am moving forward. Two, I have a rotation to the left in preparation to my backward movement. Therefore, I will now push while Lorraine pulls me. I will then redirect that energy and start pulling my energy and Lorraine's through my right hip, changing all the planes of movement as I do so, continuing to pull and pulling out of the promenade too. That creates a huge amount of space usage, so that when you see Lorraine and I dance, you don't only see and you're not only aware of our bodies moving, but you become aware of all the space around us that we are pulling through or pushing through as we move. Therefore, this understanding will, one, help you to communicate better with each other. It will take away a lot of stress and a lot of resistance that otherwise you have to create against each other. Because you can imagine the tension we can create if two people are pushing their energy of movement to each other. This will always create a rejection, which will then pay with lack of balance, with tension in the body, with stiffness. Plus, this will give you volume, space, an aura, a presence around you as you dance on the floor. When Lorraine and I used to compete, and people saw us on the floor, and then eventually met us outside the floor, very often the first comment I received was, "You are not as tall as you look." and you're not as big as you look when you are on the floor. The reason for that is, and feeling all this energy, that we were moving as we were moving. So, principle of non-resistance. If I create a push and I equal that push with a pull, we have a zero resistance. So I can only push something if that something gives me a resistance. If, while I try to push, the something I am pushing is pulling me, we create no resistance, no friction. So between Lorraine and I, if I push, she will now pull me. If I pull, she pushes. Do not misunderstand this with a physical push or a physical pull. This will be the first reaction you will have. When you try this, you will start pulling and pushing each other with your arms, with your body. This is not what we are discussing here. We are discussing energy flow. The image of water coming down from a mountain and constantly changing the direction and being constantly channeled in the correct way, and always in relationship to where we wish to move. So as lady, the only way Lorraine can pull me is if her invitation and her energy pull is not in the direction where I wish to go. And the same goes for me when I am pulling or pushing with energy. If the direction and the shape of this energy, which is three-dimensional, is harmonized and is helping us to go where we wish to go, then this is only helping the movement we wish to create and helping the communication we wish to have. This goes from the moment we decide to take position. Therefore, if Lorraine stands in front of me, if my energy is now pushing to Lorraine through my movement, this will actually tell Lorraine to go away from me. So already we are creating a friction. If I want Lorraine to come to me, I need to now pull the energy to me. If I pull from the top of my body, you can see this is lifting Lorraine. She is giving information to Lorraine to rise and to come up. We do not want to do this. Why? Because here I have great difficulty to absorb and to deal with that energy. Through my hip joint, I can pull forever in either direction with the possibility of changing the shape of that energy flow. Therefore, if we try this one more time, I can pull Lorraine in position. If I do a side change, I still pull Lorraine. Now into my right hip, now into my left hip, and then going through Lorraine's hip. So you see, even a simple preparation step, side step, must have a forward or backwards direction in order for the energies to work together in harmony. Later on the video, we will show you exercises that will help you to understand all the different subjects we have discussed today. But before you watch the rest of the video, once again, I would like you to pause it, take notes, and think about all the different information you have just received.